light has finally dimmed. Well, we certainly hope not. So we'd like to keep his legacy and the lessons that he taught us alive. And you can do that by contributing to our big Q this evening, which is not actually a question. We're just giving you the chance to share your tribute to the late Mzee Ojwang. And let's keep his legacy alive. Thank you so much for joining us. We will continue to talk about his legacy, of course, as we will be joined by a couple of guests. One of them is Eric Omondi, a very successful Kenyan comedian, who says that Mzee Ojwang is actually one of the reasons that he's managed to get where he is in comedy today. We'll also talk to a man who has walked with him through the years, worked with him, and knows him very well. You probably know him better as, and this is an interesting name, of course, you probably know him better as Ondiek Njuka Quarter, although his actual name is Nyuka Quarter, although his actual name is Hiram Mungai. That interview coming up on KTN Prime as well, as we remember the life of this great man. That and all the stories we've been following up in the newsroom are coming your way. Let's begin by taking a look at what's in the highlights tonight.
Evolution is taking root, and the decentralization of service delivery and resources is improving access to agriculture, health, as well as education services, while at the same time creating substantial employment opportunities.
World leaders seek to eradicate poverty.
This time round we are ready to be jailed. This time round we are ready to celebrate for the award. This time round we are ready to stay at home for life.
And teachers continue to lock horns with their employer, the Teachers Service Commission.
Nimesikia vibaya. Manake Ojwang amekufa kabla hajakutana na ule mtu alikuwa akitaka kukutana na yeye.
And did Kenya betray the late Mzee Ojwang? Thank you for watching KTN Prime. I'm Nancy Kachingira. William Silla is our sign language interpreter tonight. And remember, we're using the hashtag Tribute to Ojwang this evening as we remember the legacy of this great comedian. Go ahead and share your thoughts and your opinions. And of course, just share your tributes to Mzee Ojwang this evening. You can do that on Twitter. Tweet us at KTN News KE at Kachingira. And of course, you can send an SMS as well. 22155. We definitely look forward to hearing from you. Well, aside from that, Kenya is already on the way to ensuring sustainable development for her people. The country is therefore charting the way for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. Speaking at the United Nations Conference in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, President Uhuru Kenyatta said that there needs to be a concerted effort by the entire globe and indeed the region to attain this objective.
World leaders from over 190 countries are today converging in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to decide on a framework to fund the Sustainable Development Goals. Remember, these are goals that are replacing the Millennium Development Goals that were developed in 2000. These goals expire at the end of the year, and the world is converging to come up with new goals and, of course, to look at how these new goals will be financed.
In Ethiopia,
the goals replace the Millennium Development Goals that expire at the end of the year, and focus is now on the Sustainable Development Goals that must be funded if the goals and objectives have to be met. These goals set out the world's shared vision for the future, a world where no one is left behind and the future of our planet is protected. The Addis Ababa Conference on Financing for Development that will run from July 13th to 16th hopes to discuss financing for the post-2015 agenda on sustainable development. Governments will set out how this bold and transformative new vision will be financed. Where will the money come from to turn our aspirations into reality? The Sustainable Development Goals are expected to shape the global agenda on economic, social and environmental development for the next 15 years. The SDGs are more focused on building productive capacity and giving more weight to economic and environmental factors.
Development requires a lot of resources. In Kenya, we are increasingly realizing that the West has not enough money to support development in Africa, and Africa has really been supported by the West in development. And so this conference basically is about agreeing on who will finance the Sustainable Development Goals.
Experts say Africa, with a population of more than 1 billion and a new venue as a sought-after investment destination with economic growth rates rivaling those of any other continent, has a major role to play in the deliberations that will take place in Ethiopia. Sustained and improve the living standards of her people.
Especially for something like health, we're insisting that the universal health coverage, where Kenya puts domestic resources into health. Abuja says 15%, Kenya is still doing 4.5%. I mean, by the time we are getting to 15%, it's critical so that we have a healthy population. The same for education. We need 6% of all our resources put into education, but that hasn't really happened even now. So we are calling upon the government that even if they agree with the international community on how much they are going to support us, they must show what do they have on the table.
And so for the next 2 days, we will be covering this conference for you. Why is it important for the region? What are its aspirations? What does it hope to achieve? And at the end of the day, we'll be asking the questions, can the region, Africa and developing nations indeed achieve the Sustainable Development Goals? What will it take? Linda Ogutu, KTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Pertinent questions. Thank you, Linda. And we now join Mercy Kandie, who is also in Addis, where the leaders are also seeking ways to eradicate poverty.
Residents in Namurput village, Turkana County, come to this water spot with excitement. Water is scarce. This is one of the few boreholes in the village. Poverty levels are high here, 94% to be exact. The poverty levels have been this high for a long time. Turkana County government says the numbers will improve now that the government is closer to the people.
County government, yes, we have to turn the clock. But you know what we are doing now is trying to lay foundation for turning that clock. You're talking about the Turkana that initially didn't have. And if it had it in smaller quantities. You're talking about Turkana that was not initially in mainstream development. But now it has the opportunity to turn that story round.
Focus to eradicate poverty is not on Turkana County alone or the other 47 counties in Kenya. Miles away in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the United Nations seat in the 3rd International Conference Financing for Development themed Invest Ahead for People and Planet. Kenya, through President Uhuru Kenyatta, reviewed the steps he says Kenya has made.
Devolution is taking root, and the decentralization of service delivery and resources is improving access to agriculture, health, as well as education services, while at the same time creating substantial employment opportunities and helping to reduce poverty, hunger, and inequality levels in all regions of Kenya. Implementation of devolution, however, should not be at the expense of ensuring efficiency as well as accountability in public service delivery.
Kenyan ambassador to the UN, Kamau Macharia, says the next set of goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, have been developed with the local reality on the ground.
My expectation is the Sustainable Development Goals, which, by the way, are very similar to our Vision 2030, very similar, are going to be fully integrated into the Kenyan system and are going to be devolved so that we can hold governors accountable to the realization of those goals.
Annually, Turkana County is hit hard by drought. This takes toll on development. The host country, Ethiopia, has taken strides, coming from a dark past of extreme poverty and hunger. Kenya is among the 192 member states in a conference that has challenged the country to fund the new set of goals. Then Turkana County will lead the change of tune, change that is being steered through the framework goals set to be funded here in Addis. As the Millennium Development Goals come to an end in September this year, moving forward for the next 15 years with the new SDGs, one goal still tops the list: the eradication of poverty. Marcy Kandie, KTN, at the United Nations headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Speaking of goals, Kenyan teachers have been focused on one particular one, getting a pay rise. And now the hopes of Kenyan teachers that their salaries will be increased from this month of May may just be, actually from this month rather, may just be thwarted by their employer. The Teachers Service Commission is appealing the ruling given by an industrial court to have teachers' salaries raised by 50 to 60%. Sharon Momanyi tells us more.
A celebration by the teachers soon after the Employment and Labor Relations Court made the landmark ruling on their grievances on the 30th of June, a celebration that may be brought to naught by their employer. On Monday, TSC served the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, the Kenya National Union of Teachers, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, as well as the Attorney General with a Court of Appeal application seeking to overturn Justice Nduma Nderi's ruling on pay increase. TSC argues that the ruling, which would cost the state 238 billion shillings over a span of 4 years, is unrealistic. They also say this has not been factored in the 2015-2016 budget.
You cannot go to court, to appeal court, to say that teachers are many, to say that the country does not have money, to say that there will be rebellion in public service. Those are facts which everybody is aware of.
But Kuppet says that they will not take this lying down. Their argument that government wanted the court to do the arbitration, and now government must respect and abide by the court ruling. On its part, NAT is terming this latest move by the TSC as, quote-unquote, a mischief of the highest order. On their Facebook page, NAT Secretary General Wilson Sosion, who is currently in New York, states that it is not teachers who took the employer to court, but rather their employer who took them there. Sosion further argues that 52 billion shillings needed to implement the court order can still be captured in the budget through supplementary budget. But what can be seen to be ironic is that TSC itself had initially tabled the 50 to 60% pay rise at a lower court. The same TSC now says that this is unattainable.
This time round we are ready to be jailed. This time round we are ready to celebrate for the award. This time round we are ready to stay at home for life if this is not implemented. So those three things, one of them must happen.
The wrangles between teachers and the government over their salary and allowances spans over a decade, and the ruling by the industrial court was set to put this to an end. The teachers have threatened to use the one tool they have always used should the ruling not be implemented this month: a nationwide strike. Sharon Momanyi, KTN News.
To one of our main stories tonight, veteran actor Mzee Ojwang died at about 8 o'clock last evening following a long battle with pneumonia. Today, friends and family met at his home to mourn his death. Fellow actors described him as an icon who will be missed by the industry and the country. Ian Mafula reports.
Fields of Mbotela Estate. In fact, everything is business as usual here, except that a hero from one of the households has passed on. Upon Mzee Ojwang's demise Sunday night, the neighborhood had expected that some of the great men and women of power, whose every joke by the comedian had tickled them, would be among the first people to make their way to his home and condole with the family. But that was just it, expectations. By the time I had a moment to talk to his widow, Augusta Wanjiro, it had been a long night for her. Hardly any sleep, but the memories of her husband brought to the fore the good times the two had shared.
Nilikuwa napenda watu. Hata kwa nyumba yake anapenda sana watoto wake, hata hawa wachukuu anawapenda sana. Akiingia kwa hii nyumba, kila mtu anauliza unataka nini, unataka soda? Naambia endeni mnunue mkuje mkunywe. Hata anauliza iko nyama. Anasema hakuna. Naambia endeni mnunue. Sasa alikuwa anapenda watoto wake sana sana.
For Augusta, the life that came with Mzee Ojwang's career years after they got married was quite overwhelming, but even the presence of our broadcast equipment brought out a shy and mostly quiet woman. It was on Wednesday that Augusta noticed her husband was not his usual self. Days that follow would see sleepless nights in this household. It was on Sunday 12 p.m. that they took him to hospital, but he would later succumb to pneumonia, as the doctors at the Kenyatta National Hospital stated. Outside his house, only a handful of his colleagues from the TV show Vitimbi and Vioja Makamani turned out to mourn with the family.
Wanangojea mpaka Ojwang akufe ndio sasa watu wanaanza kwenda mbio. Why? Ojwang alikuwa anahitaji msaada wa watu wakati ule hajakufa. Sasa hiyo Ojwang amekufa ndio kila mtu anasema. Hiyo sijafurahia. Kawaida wewe unaelewa tu. Mambo kama yakitokea kuna wale wanaguswa na kuna wengine wale hiyo hata si issue.
So sad. Even it's sad. It's sad. Look where Ojwang was staying. A star. A celebrity. He was a pioneer. History for Kenya artists will never be written without the name of Mzee Ojwang.
Sentiments echoed by members of the public.
Ningeomba serikali iangalie saidi zote mbili, kwa ajili ni mtu amejulikana. Hata kwa saizi mimi mtoto wangu akisikia hayuko, kwa ajili muda kwa muda uniuliza.
Natakana tu apatiwe heshima yake kama mzee na kama mwenye alianzisha hiyo kazi, lakini sioni kama kuna kitu kingine atakana afanywe, kwa sababu kasi kuna ile kazi mtu unaua umeajiriwa.
A section of leaders mourned over Mzee Ojwang. President Uhuru Kenyatta and Musalia Mudavadi described Ojwang as an entertainment icon and mentor to many Kenyan comedians. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga said that Ojwang will be remembered for the joy he brought to the Kenyan homes for years. The late Benson Wanjao, alias Mzee Ojwang Hatari, leaves behind a widow and 2 children. Ian Wafula, KTN.
The Big Q.
From far and wide, the tributes have been pouring in, including from the highest officers in the land. Our hashtag tonight is Tribute to Ojwang, and we want to give you a chance, instead of asking you a question, we want to give you a chance to just share your tribute to Ojwang tonight. And we've got quite a few of those already. One here from Caleb Bosire. You say, I remember the Vitimbi theme song to date. He always made family nights memorable, but as a country, I think we failed him. One here from Richard Mutambo. You say, Mzee Ojwang is a true legend. R.I.P. to this true citizen. And another one here from Robert Tarek. You say, rest in peace, Mzee Ojwang. You played a very big and very funny role in Vitimbi. And Sylvester Ora, you say, both characters, Luo and Kikuyu, should work together in his honor because his real name was Wanjao. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, and you can continue to do that. The hashtag is Tribute to Ojwang. Go ahead and tweet us at KTN News KE, at Katchingira, and you can also send a message to 22155. We'll take a look at more of your tributes later on in the program. Well, it has certainly been an action-packed fortnight for Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye. What with the arrest last week, along with former Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi. Now, however, the police in Kampala have announced that they will allow the two leaders to hold their political rallies. Here are the details, as told by a reporter from our Ugandan partner station, NBS.
Last week, former FDC President retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye squared off with police in Kasangati as he exited his home for multiple rallies to gather support for his presidential bid as party flag bearer. Much to the displeasure of FDC party diehards, Dr. Besigye was arrested. Police maintained the FDC stalwart had not met the security guidelines to the rallies of both Dr. Besigye and General Montu. After harmonizing positions, Besigye and Montu can now proceed with their political ambitions.
So I had to be part of that meeting.
The clearance by police comes shortly after Dr. Besigye had vehemently vowed to proceed with his intentions with or without police permission. The gathering scheduled for Tuesday 14th July.
The meetings initially had not complied with the provisions of Section 5 of the Public Order Management Act, and that's why we couldn't allow them to proceed. But more critical is the fact that the purpose of the meetings also were not clear in that earlier request. It has been made clear to us, it was made clear to us last Friday, and even in our today's meetings, it has now been made clear.
While extending one hand to FDC door, the other hand was removed for Amama Mbabazi. Police maintains the status quo for the Chinchis West Member of Parliament remains, as his NRM party obligations remain unresolved.
And we want to come out that in the case of Honorable Amama Mbabazi, it is clear that he's seeking the presidency under the umbrella of the NRM party. The party has come out to state that Honorable Amama Mbabazi has a right to contest, but should not contest within the laws and regulations, but should contest within the laws and regulations of his party, as well as follow the roadmap that his party's electoral commission has put up.
Cheta Mubangizi, NBS Sunset.
You're watching KTN Prime. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. Tonight, we pay tribute to a great man, a great legend, a man who made the nation laugh. Remember, our hashtag tonight is tribute to Ojwang. And to continue that conversation, I'm joined this evening by Ondiek Nyukakwota, as most people know him, but your real name is Hiram Mungai. Do many people call you that?
Yes, some few guys know me by that name, but most of the guys refer to me as Ondiek Nyukakwota.
Okay.
But the real me is Hiram. Yes,
okay.
It's Hiram Mungai.
And you're going to tell us about the real Ojwang in just a second. But also joining us is Eric Omondi, man who probably needs no introduction, but very familiar to most Kenyans as a comedian. Thank you both for joining us. Now, Ondiek, you worked with Mzee Ojwang for a very long time, didn't you?
I did. I worked with Mzee Ojwang, Benson Wanjau Karira. That was his real name.
Yes.
To me, he was a father. And in Vitimbi, we worked and lived like a family.
A family.
And one thing that I may want to tell people is that, in fact, he was a legend. He has left a legacy. And to us, he's the founder of theater in this country. And there's nothing that we can talk about theater and comedy without mentioning Benson Wanjau Karira. He's a guy who devoted all his time. And maybe there are some things that people do not know. That Benson Wanjau Karira was a trained theater technician. He once worked at Kenyatta Hospital as a theater technician. Then later at Mata Hospital.
When you say theater, you're not talking about stage.
I'm talking about the operating theater.
You're talking about medicine.
Medicine, yes.
Theater. Okay.
He was a trained theater technician.
Wow.
You see, he worked in Kenyatta Hospital, then later at Mata Hospital.
Right.
Then later he decided to really give his art 100%. That is when he got into art, and until when the curtain fell.
Right.
Yes.
So Eric, what's your take on this? Because you've said that he had a great influence on your career. How was that?
Mzee Ojwang had a great influence in almost all of our lives as comedians. Even Churchill, my father. You see, I looked up to him as a grandfather because he influenced my dad, who is Churchill. And I was born. By the time I was being born, Ojwang was already on stage. He was already on TV. And as early as Standard 4, or late Standard 3, I remember I was in Kondele Primary School. And the one program I would wait for was Vitimbi. And you see, there was wrestling, there was music time, but I had a special liking for Vitimbi, because then I already had that desire to be a comedian. I was already in drama. As early as Standard 5, So all I wanted to be was Ojwang. All I wanted to do was be on TV, and he inspired me along the way from primary school through high school.
He made you see that it was possible, right? And it's interesting that you say you used to look forward to that, because I was actually growing up in Tanzania, and even there we knew Vitimbi and we knew Mzee Ojwang. It was amazing. We used to wait for it. It was so much fun. But we know the man in front, you know, we know the man on the screen. What was he like behind the screen? Is who we saw on the screen the same way that he was?
He was not the same man that the man that you saw on the screen and on stage was different.
How?
Behind the scene, he was Benson Wanjau Karira, and he lived his life as a father and a grandfather. As I told you, to me, I referred to him as my daddy, because in fact, you may not believe it, but he performed in my school when I was still schooling. Then I joined him later. And you can just imagine, I've worked with him for almost 30 years.
Wow.
So he's somebody that I know. I've traveled with him all over, let me say, all over the country, outside the country. We have done a lot together. And I can just tell you that this is a guy that Kenya is going to miss. He's one person that the drama industry in this country, the entertainment industry, has lost a great man. You know, in the era of the black and white television, those days, when when the televisions were put on at around 5, 6 there, and then closed at around 11 with the national anthem, those are the times that we always looked for, at least to watch, to get the humor from this old man. And then later, I joined him. I'm just telling you, if there's one thing that I ever enjoyed, was to work with these wonderful men. Him and Akina Mzee Tama, these are guys who are our mentors. Ojwang Atari has gone, but his memories will actually linger for a very long time. He's my mentor, and I will never forget him. His memories will always live.
Wow.
Long after he's gone.
Absolutely.
And I can just tell you, in fact, my children were the first ones to get the news, and were like, you know, things actually get into social media very fast.
Yes.
And they were like, I had a meeting, so I was like, everybody was calling me, and so many messages had come in, but in fact, I was unable to read the messages because I had so many meetings, because on Sundays is a very busy day for me. But eventually, when I was able to put on my phone, I was like, I got so many messages, and even before I could read them, my children had already told me, they came in and they were like, Dad, there's something that we are seeing in the social media that Mzee has left us. So when I went on my phone, that is when I was able to read all the messages, and it was like, this is a big blow, not only to me, but to the entire nation.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely, and everyone has really come out to say how they've been affected by this. I'm just going to read a tweet. This one, Mutai Ngunyi, he was saying, it's not a tragedy that Ojwang Atari has died. It would be a tragedy if we let die what he left alive in us, a Kikuyu best known as a Luo. Now, Eric, I'm going to throw this to you, because tribe features a lot in comedy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
What have we learned from Mzee Ojwang about that?
We've learned a lot. Just as Mutai Ngunyi puts it, he says that we should not forget one thing, that Ojwang was the embodiment of a true Kenyan. Most people thought Ojwang was a Luo.
That's true. Yes.
Mzee Ojwang Manganga. And he lived his character until when he died yesterday, and people started seeing his real name, Benson Wanjau, and people asking me, this guy was Kikuyu. So he gave us the best example of what true Kenyan is. Like a Kikuyu can take up the character of a Luo and play it so well to an extent that we believe it. I think that is a very deep message, even sent to us as comedians, that as we do what we do to make people laugh, that our greatest call is to bring out the true Kenyan, the true embodiment of one country. And Ojwang, to us as comedians, if I may speak on behalf of our generation, to us is like what the Mau Mau fighters are to Kenyans, because he's been here. He was born in 1937.
Yes.
Where were you at that time?
1937. I don't even know whether my grandfather had met my grandmother.
Right.
So he's come and he's what he went through. He prepared the way for us.
Right.
And Duke Nyokokota is, I could almost say, is closer to our generation. What Mzee went through. These are stories when just recently when we had the story of his sickness coming up and the situation, and when we were talking to him, when he told us the stories, the things that they went through to bring entertainment to the forefront,
Yes.
that they would perform those years before I was born, and they would be paid the bottle of soda.
With a bottle of soda.
Of soda. And it was very famous. So he talked to some of us and told us what they went through.
Yes.
For some of us to be sitting.
And obviously
here
that encouraged you as well.
Yes.
But just talking about what he did go through and just what he's done for this industry and this craft, and also looking at the way he passed, and a lot of Kenyans saying that we failed him. Do you think that we failed him?
Basically, I may not want to talk about that right now, because we are celebrating the passing on of a great man, a great hero, and in fact what we are planning, we are just planning a befitting send-off, and we are saying all the artists, all the comedians, we are meeting at City Hall from tomorrow at 2. We are going to have a meeting there, and in this meeting we are planning a wonderful send-off to our brother, to our father, to our hero, to our mentor. That is exactly what we are doing. And in fact, there are some things that they are on the pipeline. We are telling the media people that tomorrow morning at around 11, we'll be having a media briefing at his Jama estate. That is why we'll give the media briefing. Then there's also something else that maybe we might want to tell Kenyans, which we'll be able to tell them tomorrow, because there's so many things that are happening at the same time. We wouldn't want to blame anybody. There's no need of having a blame game. At the end of the day, I totally believe when the curtain falls, the show has to come to an end.
True.
And so the curtain has fallen.
Okay. And you're right, it's not about a blame game, but sometimes there are lessons that we need to learn, especially for the future. Eric, do you think we could have done better for him?
For me, I think at this point in time, I'd like to concur with my big brother. Well, a lot has been said ever since the stories broke out. And at this particular point in time, we want to celebrate a hero.
Right.
We want to celebrate a founding father of an entire entertainment industry. And we want to remember Mzee Ojwang for the jovial, jumpy, and the happy person that he was. Such that if we started bringing, as he puts it, this could have been done, this could have been done, then we will cloud his legacy.
The true essence.
And I think if I was asked personally, I think Mzee Ojwang has lived fullest, and I pray to God that I live that long and make people happy enough that long and that well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
and that's a great place to put it. I think, as you both have said, let's focus on celebrating a man who lived a good life and made so many people happy doing it. Continue to share your tribute to Ojwang. That's our hashtag this evening. You're watching KTN Prime. We'll be right back.
Watching KTN Prime.
And a very good evening. Welcome to KTN Business. You're just in time to catch up with the latest with what's been making headlines across the region. My name is Abi Agina. We start with looking at the shilling's performance, which is currently struggling against the US dollar. In early morning trade, the shilling hit a new low, weakening to 102.5 against the dollar, having closed Friday's trading at 101.85 shillings. Dollar demand from the telcos, manufacturing and energy sectors is seen to be putting pressure on the shilling. Currency traders say the shilling is expected to remain under pressure in coming days, hurt by a wide current account deficit and scarce tourism receipts due to dwindling visitor numbers. The further weakening is especially concerning given the central bank's action to hike the best lending rate to 11.5% has done little to cushion the shilling. The central bank has in the past gone into the market to mop up excess liquidity, which has seen the import cover drop to 4.2 months. The shilling has weakened by 14% since January, with the rebounding US economy being the main driving force. The shilling last crossed the 100 shilling mark in 2011 when it hit an all-time low of 107 shillings against the dollar. Moving on, Vision 2030's real estate project, Status City, is finally taking shape as the developer moves fast to restore investor confidence in the long overdue multi-billion-dollar venture. The developer has broken ground for construction of the first phase of Kijani Ridge on a 150-acre piece of land. KTN's Charles Gitonga has the details.
The Status City project has finally started after nearly 5 years' battle for control of Kenya's biggest privately funded real estate venture. Diplomats and investors flocked the 2,500-acre tract of land in Kiambu on Saturday to witness groundbreaking of the first phase of the project. The phase includes construction of Kijani Ridge, which will house over 70,000 residents and 30,000 day visitors.
So far, we have invested over $100 million in this project. That is our own capital into infrastructure, into land, and preparing this master plan to be a beautiful development outside of Nairobi.
Phase 1 of the 240 billion shillings project has so far attracted 100 customers. 60% of Kijani Ridge has also been bought out by home buyers, including Kiambu County Governor William Kabogo, who lauded the investment as key to his county's development agenda.
Kijani Ridge is the beginning of an ambitious, well-planned, controlled development that presents the future of real estate development in Kenya.
Huge investment. It's a huge commitment by the American business community, by the investors in Kenya.
We hope that we can attract additional investment into the country. So for us, this will be a showcase to show what Kenya can actually attract into the country.
Among the investors expected to occupy the project include Dorman's Coffee, who acquired 10 acres of land and will spend about 650 million shillings to set up a coffee roasting factory and head office. The American firm Rendezvous is also developing over 30,000 acres of such projects in Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Charles Gitonga, KTN.
Many thanks there, Charles. Indeed, some good news from the real estate sector. Agriculture to this day is considered the backbone of the Kenyan economy. Modernizing the sector, however, is considered as the surest ways of improving the sector's output. This holds true for Moses and Susan Muturi, who are taking their old dairy business to new heights. On this week's edition of The Frontier, Philip Kitani takes us through the journey, which started with 11 cows to what has become a thriving dairy farm. Take a look.
Meet Moses and Susan Muturi, the proprietors of Tassal's Dairy Farm. The husband and wife duo have for years before marriage been intrigued by dairy farming.
Most of the agriculture in Africa is rain-fed. So there was no rain, and so milk production went down. In the market, demand was a bit high. And then I thought by myself, why can't I get my cows, manage them well, make sure they have feed all the time, and make sure I have milk all the time? I'll be in business.
When they married and joined their assets, Susan simply passed as the majority shareholder with a contribution of 11 dairy cows, with Muturi being the minority shareholder with a contribution of 7 dairy cows. The two were, however, determined to succeed as dairy farmers and committed themselves to learning all they could about the dairy business.
Dairy farming is a business like any other business, and it pays.
17 years later, what began as a fairly small-scale dairy farm is now a thriving modern dairy business with nearly 400 high-quality dairy cows.
And I knew the future of farming would be great, so I chose cows. Unlike my friends, they do cows, chicken, and everything. So I chose one thing, and I wanted to perfect it.
The farm also takes disease management seriously, which includes ensuring appropriate veterinary support So far, they've lost close to 40 cows to foot and mouth disease. The farm now has in place a strict and regular deworming regime, which they say seems to control 70% of disease. Access to the farm is also restricted to prevent contamination.
Most diseases are associated with dirt, most cattle diseases. And because these cows are dropping and they are urinating every now and then, of course you expect that dirt and the presence of organic matter to be in the cattle shed. So we clean it, we remove it, and then the slurry goes to the biogas station where it produces the gas which is used for domestic purposes. Then the other dung is used as a manure to the farm.
In future, the couple hopes to expand their business through some added value ventures and join like-minded farmers in setting up a milk processing facility. They say future millionaires in Africa will be farmers, but the journey to making those millions will be treacherous, and only those who will be persistent and ready to do it the right way will reap the fruits of their labor. Philip KTN for the Next Frontier.
Quite an inspiring story there. Many thanks, Philip Kitani. Do catch this segment every Monday, and of course also on our show from 2 to 4 p.m. every day of the week, Monday to Friday. Let's now take a look at the financial report. My name is Abia Gina. Do have yourselves a lovely evening.
Welcome back. Let's head over to the sports world now. Football elections fever has reached fever pitch in the country, with would-be candidates traversing the country soliciting votes. Football Kenya chairman Sam Nyamweya has asked candidates to carry themselves with some decorum during the campaigns.
Are coming up now because we have the elections which are going to be by the end of the year. And it's too early for them to let them wait, because what is happening is we are going to set up a date. We are in consultation with FIFA and other stakeholders, and the National Executive Committee will come up with a date. They also come up with an election board and the eligibility programs. So once that is done, then we have given a date. Then after the board has interviewed the candidates, once they have been cleared, then now they are now free to campaign. You know, it is ill-advised to be on a campaign mood when all other faculties have not been put in place. I don't mind someone campaigning, you campaign, but I think let us have order. Let's have order. Let us respect the institutions. Let us respect this federation which is in the office until the term ends. So if you want to campaign, you be allowed to campaign. And once more, I want to give an undertaking that the federation, we are committed, FIFA and the federation, to give what we call a level playing ground.
And veteran Concours d'Elegance competitor Sati Gata Aura is busy rebuilding a 1974 MGTC sports car as he focuses on this year's Concours d'Elegance, which is set for the 27th of September. In addition to the 1947 MGTC sports car, he will also be showcasing his constant 1977 Nissan 160J, which has earned him 3 overall victories and 25 podium prizes during his 31 years as a participant. In order to encourage new entrants into the competition, the organizers have introduced a prize for the highest placed car appearing on the racecourse. The annual Concours d'Elegance rewards owners of cars and motorcycles that are in excellent condition. The event that enters its 45th edition this year has already attracted tens of participants.
And it finished 6th overall, but I'm not happy with that. It has to win. Well, there's been quite a few owners, and it's exchanged a lot of hands, and it had gone to a stage where it couldn't have been revived. But anyway, it's lucky that's been brought back to life again.
Right, well, as we wrap up this bulletin, let's go back to our point of interaction with you this evening. It wasn't so much a big queue as it was a big tribute. Tribute to Ojwang was our hashtag, and we asked you to just share your tributes to this great legend. Thank you very much for sharing. So many memories, so many great thoughts as well coming in. There's this SMS that says, I remember the ad for the insecticide strike when Ojwang was afraid of a roach and jumped on a table only for Mama Kayai to okoa him by spraying the insect. I miss those days. And another one here from someone who says, let's celebrate our legends and celebrities while they still exist. It's sad people are more concerned when he's already gone. And you say R.I.P. Betty in Nairobi, you say, Mzee Ojwang, you did your bit to unite Kenyans. Not many have managed that feat. Close are the athletes, volleyball and rugby teams. Rest in peace, Mzee Wetu. One here, Mzee Ojwang was a true Kenyan, a hero, an icon, a legend. It's a tragedy that we worship thieves and crooks and ignore noble people such as Mr. Wanjao. Long live Mzee Ojwang's memory. And this last one I think really sums it up very well. This is a tweet from Kakadubu. You say, we all die. The goal is not to live forever. The goal is to create something that will. Enough said. Well, that's it for KTN Prime tonight. Thank you very much for having joined us. William Silla was our sign language interpreter, and I'm Nancy Kachingira. Great to have you, and we'll see you again tomorrow. For now, though, have a good night, and God bless.